Literature. This is Gauri. Today we are going to talk about research methods in English. We already see chapter 1 and 2, background knowledge, chapter 2, and chapter 1, meaning and objectives of literary research. If you are not watched that video, please go and watch. Okay, let's go. What can be the materials and tools of research? A student, a research student of literature, may ask, in science, he will say materials are the objects of nature and the tools or scientific instruments. He is right in his questions. A scientist examines an object of nature and differentiates it from other objects by defining its properties. Likewise, he observes different phenomena of nature and tries to discover the same law of rating behind them. First, by formulating a hypothesis and later on by testing it. Can we adopt the same kind of method in literary research? Yes, we can. Literary research is equally systematic, methodical, and objective. In scientific, it has specific materials for investigation and specific tools for arriving at a conclusion or formulating a theory. Only we have to remember that Aristotle applied the same principles in physics, politics, and poetics. The materials of literary research are manuscripts and printed books. By manuscripts, we mean all the works of an author, whether written in its own handwriting or in the writings of others. Printed books and manuscripts include all the texts, letters, diaries, journals, memories, and reviews, and critical comments and criticism by the author. In science, the basic tools are observation and experiment. In literature, it's too the basic tools are observation and experiment. Of course, we do not make experiments in the way a physicist does. In this respect, we are nearer to sociology and history. Now, we are going to talk about materials. Manuscripts can be divided in two broad divisions. First one, manuscript in cursive writing. Before the introduction of the printing machine in England and manuscripts, when the spellings were modernized in the 18th century, and a uniformity was reached in the shape of the letters. The problems that the Old English and Middle English manuscripts posed are the following. First one, Old English is almost foreign even to the native English speakers. They can't understand Old English. Second one, spellings of Old English words are also strikingly different from those of New English words. In Tamil also, in Tamil, Hindi also, Old Tamil is different from New Tamil. Third one, there was no uniformity in the shape of the written symbols. For examples, the letters A or B could be written in many ways. Fourth one, though Middle English is very nearer to New English, many of its words are obsolete and some of them have changed semantically. Fifth one, the syntax of Middle English is also different in many cases. For example, the pronouns its and is were interchangeable and two negatives made a sentence negative. Sixth one, the authors is most new manuscripts pose little problems exposing these two. First one, a large number of manuscripts were or unsigned. Second one, the writing is illegible when the writer is in a hurry or tired. In materials, we are going to see editions. Caxton set up his printing machine in 1476. We all know that year. It is unnecessarily here to record the books he printed and published. We have only to know that the introduction of the press was revolutionary. Up till then, a book was copied. The work was tedious, time taking, and in most cases boring. Secondly, the scribes made mistakes while copying, and the results was that the manuscripts differed considerably. Now, the printing press made the work easier and more accurate. However, printed editions are not always reliable. A post before the research students or scholar the following problems. The five problems they mentioned here. First one, there is a considerable difference between a manuscript and a printed edition. Second one, the number of an edition or reprint is seldom printed. Third one, the year of publication is rarely recorded. Fourth one, polemical articles do not bear the author's names. Fifth one, there are pirated editions and forged manuscripts. Next, in materials topic, we are going to talk about paper. The paper of a text is also a part of the materials of research. The study of the paper is important for determining the date of a text and ascertaining its genuineness. A paper expert will tell us the age of a paper after examining its quality and watermark. Once we have come to know the date of the paper of a text, we can safely assume that the text was written and after the date. If a forgerer presents a manuscript claiming that it was written in the 13th century, we can examine its genuineness by determining the date of the paper. Okay, next, ink. Ink is the third important part of the materials. To take a simple example, if someone comes with a manuscript written with a ballpoint pen and claims that it belongs to the 19th century, we will at once say that he is cheating. He is cheating us because ballpoint pen did not exist at that time. A book on the history of ink will tell us kinds of ink which were used in different ages. In complex nature and size of materials has made literary research a really difficult and also interesting form of investigation for the discovery of truth. Next, finding materials. The nature of finding materials depends on the topic. If we are to edit a text, say Milton's Paradise Lost, we have to look for the manuscripts, the different editions, critical commentaries, and relevant criticism. Suppose we are writing a doctoral dissertation on W.V. Yeats' use of myths. We need not consult the manuscripts. We have to study books on Irish mythology, the books discussing myths in general, all the works of Yeats and critical works on Yeats. But how to know the titles of books, their authors, and places of publication? The best source is, of course, Cambridge Bibliography of Literature. The other useful general bibliography is PMLA Bibliography, which is published every year. Oxford History of English Literature, Pelican Guide to English Literature, a literary history of America, and a literary history of England. These four books contain useful bibliography. The English novel, and the English poetry, edited by A.E. Dyson, contain bibliography on the more important British novelists and poets, and in addition, contain useful introduction to each of the selected authors. Nowadays, Critical books on authors contain selected bibliography, which includes both primary and secondary sources. For more recent books, the best is books in print, which is published every year. The research student can find materials that in three ways: author wise, title wise, and subject wise. All university libraries have adopted the decimal system of classification. It is easy to locate books where there is an open system after consulting the cards, which are indexed title wise and author wise, and which are stored in drawers in the entrance hall. Some prestigious libraries have computerized the system. The great benefit is that a reader, after necessary payment, can collect information about the books on this subject in these libraries. Journals are a very useful part of bibliography. Every library displays the recent arrivals on a board. For the old issues, the research student should go to the reference section or the archives where journals are kept. The libraries of national importance maintain the manuscripts of old authors. For the living authors, the best sources are the authors themselves or their trustees. In England, the manuscripts of most of the authors up to the 19th century are preserved in the university or public libraries. Since writing in English began in India in the last quarter of 19th century, that means we are not concerned with books in Sanskrit, Arabic, Persian, Urdu, Hindi, and the regional languages here. Manuscripts can be located in the houses of the authors or their inheritors. The best way, therefore, is to contact the authors or their trustees for the study of manuscripts. In England and America too, research students or scholars approach the authors or their trustees to consult manuscripts for copyright reasons. Now, we studied materials and then we are going to talk about tools of research. The basic tools, observation and experiment are common to all kind of research. Here we are concerned with the specific tools of literary research, although some of them are used in natural and social sciences. The tools of literary bibliography, note system, scientific tools, and textual analysis. Here I mentioned bibliography, note system. Okay. First one, bibliography. The word bibliography usually means a list of books and articles on a given subject or an author. In literary research, the term means the science of books and has a wider denotation. We may divide bibliography into four kinds. First one, historical bibliography. Second, bibliothetical bibliography. Third one, enumerative bibliography. And finally, bibliography. First one, historical bibliography. It deals with the history of book production, which includes the history of writing, printing, binding, illustrating, publishing, and selling. By a successful use of historical bibliography, we determine the date of a text. It is a well known fact that there has been a gradual development in the process of making paper. Science of printing and art of writing. It is well known fact that there has been a gradual development in the process of making paper, science of printing and art of writing. The historical bibliography is equally useful in a text, determining its authenticity and attributing it to an author. We shall discuss its use in chapter 4. next chapter. In the next video, we shall discuss it. Second one, bibliothetical bibliography. It helps locate books and journals in a library. Primarily concerned with library science and history of library, it gives an idea about the classification and location of important libraries. Nowadays, all modern libraries use use the decimal system of classification and arrange cards author wise and title wise alphabetically. The reference section is mentioned separately, and there is the archives where old journals and manuscripts are housed. In modern times, knowledge has fairly advanced and no subject can be studied in isolation. The research student should not confine himself to the topic of research nor limit his knowledge to the subject of specialization but study books related to his research, though they may belong to other subjects. Some prestigious libraries prepare a list of books available on a subject, but the list must not be considered final, and the research student should make use of bibliothetical bibliography. Now, some libraries have computerized the information system, but we must know the computers cannot suppress the human brain. It is the human brain that feeds data to computers. Internet has its own limitations. Third one, enumerative bibliography. It helps the research students know the books he actually needs. The standard bibliographies, Cambridge Bibliography of English Literature and MLA Bibliography, published every year, help the student prepare a working bibliography. The other useful source in books is in print. It published books in print. It published every year and mentioned by and maintained by every university library. For details, read the section Finding Materials in this chapter. We that finding materials in previous chapter, previous passage. Practical bibliography. It is concerned with the methods of work of the student and author. Reading, research completion of notes and bibliography. Preparation of the manuscript, typing of the research paper or the thesis. Bibliography is usually divided into two main divisions. One is primary sources and the other one is secondary sources. Primary sources consist of all the writings of an author, that is literary text, poems, plays, novels, essays, autobiography, diaries, journals, letters and memories. The letters, diaries, journals and reminiscence of his close friends and contemporaries are also included in the primary sources. Some scholars include standard bibliographies in the list of primary sources. The important point to note is that we include only those materials in the list of primary sources which gave us a first-hand knowledge of the author. The secondary source, it includes books on the works of author. These are usually critical research paper notes, reviews, comments and unpublished theses. The main difference between these two is that the primary sources are the subject of investigation and the secondary sources help us understand, analyze and interpret. Now, next topic, note system. Note system, it provides notes, facts for future reference. Note taking helps students concentrate attention during lectures and study of books. Different people have different reasons for taking notes, and it is considerable extent the reason dictates the way in which the notes should be taken. There is no odd and fast rule. However, in literary research, a technique has been developed developed for taking notes as note system. Notes can be broadly divided into two groups. One is lecture notes and another one is textual notes. Lecture notes, there are basic differences between college lectures and university lectures. First of all, the university lecturer speaks much faster because he expects his students to take down only bare facts. Since he assumes more general knowledge and expects his students to spend more time in the university library, he is more selective and unless he enlarges upon a specific aspects. He will not give facts. Indeed, he will refer to source material. Perhaps even write the title of books and journals, name of the authors, and the uncommon or technical words of the on the blackboard. In fact, he, in most cases, does not try to teach the postgraduate or MPhil or PhD students everything there is to know on the subject. Instead, he guides them. This means that the research students has to concentrate more and be more selective in the classroom. Besides a few facts or quotations, the lecturers provides a valuable structure and references which are worth noting. The best way to take lecture notes is to note the main points of argument in the all and immediately after the lecture because each contents of the lecture are still fresh in memory, to enlarge it and compare it with the notes of the class fellows to ascertain that all the points have been taken down. Second one, text notes. Text notes mean notes taken from books and journals in libraries. The text notes can be divided into bibliographical notes and subject notes. Bibliographical notes, it are concerned with the location of books in libraries and for use in the preparation of footnotes and bibliography. For bibliographical notes, cards that is 3-inch into 5-inch size should be bought and kept in card boxes. There should be an index of cards also. Card should contain the following information. One is call number. Second one is author and the title of the book. Third one is edition and publisher. Fourth is library. Fifth is contents. An illustration is given how the card, an illustration that was given in this book. Okay, if you have time, you go and search Google. Subject notes are specific and are meant to be incorporated in the main body of the thesis and or dissertation. The research student notes down the matters he considers to be of importance. Subject notes. Like the bibliographical cards, he should have subject note cards and boxes. The same way, bibliographical notes and subject notes. The following system is to be followed for subject notes. Card should be 5-inch and 8-inch size. One card should contain one idea, fact or concept. There should be a heading at the top of each card. There should be sufficient information to identify each note. There should be information whether the matter written on the card is a paraphrase or verbatim quotations. The card should be labeled in sequence such as A, B, C and so on if the information is much. If you also have time, you go and search in YouTube, search in Google and bibliographical notes card and what is subject notes card. In subject note, there is no need to write the title of the book. It is already there in the bibliographical notes. Here the heading of the chapter, author's name and the index number are sufficient. What is important is the preparation of the note. There is no need to write the title, Wordsworth and the beginnings of modern poetry, nor the publisher's name, nor the university, nor the year of publications. The great problem before a research student is how to take notes because he has not been trying to do it in his postgraduate course. The technique is described in brief. First problem that a research student face is what ideas to note down and which ideas to ignore. In the beginning, he is attracted towards only those points that seem to have direct relations to his topic. Wait a minute. He is more interested in the conclusion than in arguments and facts. He should know that comments that are not supported by facts and conclusions without logical argument do not have any value. Therefore, the research student must read the book thoroughly and during the period of his study, insert slips between the pages he considers ideas and facts, and later on, when he has finished the book, take down notes. The second problem is when to paraphrase and when to quote is verbatim. The usual practice is to summarize an argument spreading over a page or more. For shorter, for shorter pages, it is always better to paraphrase them. A thesis littered with quotation seems an ill-worked pasty. Only those pages are to be quoted that cannot be easily paraphrased or that are to be analyzed or discussed. In all cases, summary, paraphrase, and verbatim quotation pages must be referred to. The third problem, now we are going to talk about third problem, is how much note to be taken. It is better to take down plenty of notes. In beginning, it is very difficult to decide which notes will be useful. Sometimes it has been found that the notes that seemed unimportant in the beginning proved to be really important. And finally, the style of taking notes. Should we use our own abbreviations since subject notes are for personal use? The researcher can use the standard abbreviations and also invent his own. He can invent abbreviations like SHD for should, CD for could, WW for Wordsworth and like. However, he should be cautious enough not to confuse one with the other. Now, third one, scientific tools. A magnifying glasses is needed to decipher some of the faint letters in a manuscript. For making a copy of manuscripts, he advised chancy senders advise to use a photostat machine. If the manuscript is too delicate, a good camera fitted with a long roll of film, like a motion picture film, can be used to take the photograph of the manuscript. The entire text, now converted into a microfilm, can be read with the help of some lighting device. The color of the ink is compared with the help of Loewe bond tintometer glasses. Loewe bond tintometer glasses. Microscopes are used in examining handwriting, especially for the purpose of detecting forages. In transcribing manuscripts and in monitoring the composition of paper, in India, these scientific devices can be used now as some of the Indian creative writers have stopped writing and their manuscripts need a critical or definite edition. Since Sanders and Altic their attention mainly on bibliographical method, bibliography and textual criticism, they have ignored the most important method, literary criticism and theories, which is the most common method of research adopted by research students in Indian universities. Therefore, the following tools may be added to Sanders list. First one is tape recorder. Tape recorder Earlier, the recording of the plays and poems were made on discs of plastics. Disc. Nowadays, these are available in cassettes, which are light and handy. In meaning of a poem, a story or a play is more clear when we hear its reading. Modern poets have recorded their poems and their cassettes are available. A research student can benefit immensely for them if he listens to them carefully. English, though widely popular in India, is a foreign language and very few Indians are able to catch the intonation of the language. For an Indian student, it is important that he should be able to understand the tone and rhythm of the poems and plays on which he is doing research, which is possible only when he listens to cassettes repeatedly and trains his ears to the sounds of English. Second one, television and VCR. Films have made been Films have been made on standard works of literatures. If a poem is meant for reading and listening, a play is meant for staging and reading. Drama is primarily a visual art. We cannot appreciate a play fully unless we see it acted. We can read Hamlet independently or with the help of commentaries and critics, but the real pleasure and appreciation lies in the films on Hamlet, in which Laurence Olivier has acted the main role. This is important. You kindly note down Laurence Olivier. He acted Hamlet. Similarly, the life history of important writers have also been recorded in the celluloid, and happily that video cassettes are available at moderate prices. With the help of television and video cassette recorder, the research student can see the places where the author lived, the occasions when he wrote his novel, and the people with whom he was an intimate terms. Now, fourth one, textual analysis. Textual analysis is the most important tool of research in literature. By textual analysis, we are able to demonstrate how the different competence of a literary text are related to one author and how the entire whole is dependent for its meaning on its parts and it has a meaning independent of them. Although many scholars and critics have noticed earlier the importance of analysis of a poem without reference to its author and his bibliography. It was I.A. Richards who first demonstrated how subjectively creeps into our interpretation of poem. He devised a method, practical criticism, by which we can analyze and interpret a poem objectively. He said that there are four kinds of meaning. One is sense, second one is feeling, third one is tone, and fourth one is intention. And in order that we should understand a poem as it is, we have to take note of all the four. His followers, especially James Reeves, H. Combs, and S. H. Bruton, have developed this tool to a certain precision. Clint Brooks, in collaboration with Robert Penn Warren, made use of textual analysis in understanding poetry and understanding drama. The understanding fiction, which such a perfection that these books are still our model. Textual analysis is concerned with the words and synthetical structure of the text and their interrelationship. In category of words, it analyzes simile, metaphor, metamony, irony, imagery, symbolism, and other figures of speech. The second group, in the second group, or the meter system and stanza form, usually called versification. A literary work of art is an imaginative reproduction of reality. The creative writer does not write about an idea, experience, feeling, or emotion like an average man. His use of language is never referential, it is always emotive. The desired effect is made by means of simile, metaphor, metamony, irony, paradox, imagery, symbolism, backgrounding, and foregrounding. The sound effect is created by the use of assonance, consonance, and rhyme. In poetry, a particular meter and a particular stanza from a chosen for the desired expression of the experience or idea. Sometimes the poet varies the length of the meter he is using in a particular poem, and he breaks away from the traditional stanza form. A student of literature who goes for the textual analysis work must know the meaning of these literary terms. Forms of literature. That means poetry, drama, novel, essay, short story, satire, parody, and allegory. Forms of poetry: epic, mock epic, narrative poetry, ode, lyric, elegy, pastoral, and dramatic monologue. Forms of drama: tragedy, comedy, tragicomedy, and melodrama, and burlesque. Forms of novel: historical novel, social novel, psychological novel, and scientific fiction. Literary devices: alliteration, assonance and consonance, imagery, con- contrast and juxtaposition, irony, paradox, parallelism, foregrounding, backgrounding, repetition, motif, leitmotif, empathy, tone, that is overtone and undertone, metaphor, metonymy, synecdoche, symbolism and refrain. Style is naturalism, realism, impressionism, magic realism, expressionism, futurism, and interior monologue. In English poetry, verification has two aspects: meter system and stanza form. There are 6 meters in English poetry: iambus, trochee, anapist, dactyl, pyrus, and spondy, of which the most common are iambus and thronchi. The other meters are used for variation to remove the monotony of iambus and thronchi. The length of a line is determined by the number of feet, which is turn is determined by the number of stresses. Now, the stanza is unit in a poem. English poets at first followed by the Latin stanza forms in the beginning, but later and on made extra forms which are typically English, or couplet, a pair of rhymed lines. Heroic couplet, a pair of rhymed lines in iambic pentameter. Tercet or triplet, 3 lines rhyming together, often used for humor. Octosyllabic couplet, it is a pair of rhymed lines in tetrameter. Terza rima, a stanza of 3 lines with rhyme scheme ABA, BCA, ABA, BCB, CDC, and so on. Quatrain, a 4 line stanza, and ballad stanza, alternating 4 and 3 footnotes, lines. Heroic quotation, iambic pentameter, rhyming ABAB, rhyme royal, a 7 line iambic pentameter stanza, rhyming ABAB, BCC, octava rima, and 8 line iambic pentameter stanza, rhyming ABAB, ABCC, Spenserian stanza, a 9 line stanza, the first 8 lines in iambic pentameter, and the ninth hexameter, Alexandrine, rhyming AB, AB, BC, BC, C. The textual analyst gives due importance to the parts but knows that there is important lies in the relation to the poem, which is an organic whole. In his analysis, he demonstrates how the irrelevant local texture enriches the logical structure of the poem. He will not be led astray by the beauty of an imagery, an expression, or a line, but will examine it the total structure of the poem. Okay, now we wind up the section. Okay, you are all found this video helpful. You kindly click that subtitle button. Then you will my words. Okay, thank you for this wonderful section. Thank you for this wonderful session. Bye.